David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. Today I have for you the latest release from Asvine. I have said this virtually every time I've reviewed a pen from Asvine, but it is a budget brand I have been impressed with. When it comes to bang for the buck, their previous offerings have provided quite a bit of bang. Their latest release, which just hit the market last week, is a version of their C2000 model made with stabilized wood, and it even comes with a number 8 nib. What I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of this colorful new pen, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about it. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. Thanks go out to Asvine for providing this pen for review. So, in order to see if this latest offering continues the trend of quality pens for the price, please join me over here at camera 2. The pen arrives in this standard Asvine box. Inside, we have a plastic box. It's kind of reminiscent of the way Twisbys are packaged. And inside, there is a use and care guide. And then we have the pen. This is the Asvine C2000 in the stabilized wood. There are actually two models of this pen. This one here is called the Sunset. And you can see here that every single pen in this series is going to have a different color. There's going to be a lot of color variation in this particular stabilized wood. And then there is another version here that is kind of more on the turquoise side that is called the Oasis. If you're not familiar with what stabilized wood is, it is a wood that has then basically been infused with resin. And so then it makes it easier to work with. And then also this wood is not going to warp or crack or anything like that over time. And you can see here that it just provides some really interesting textures in that wood and is a nice combination of a natural material as well as some of these colors in here. So you can see some of the wood in here, and it's just an interesting look. In regard to the parts and features of this pen, this is a fairly decent sized pen. The top is flat. Then you can see it comes down here to where we have the cap or the clip ring, and the clip does have a decent amount of flex to it, so it works in materials of varying thicknesses. The cap is essentially straight. Here on the end, it does say Asvine, and then on the back it has the number of the model, which is C2000. I do appreciate when Asvine's pens do have their model numbers on it. Most of their model numbers are just letters and numbers, and so having it on there makes it easier to remember. Then there is a rounded step down to the remainder of the barrel, which then tapers down at a fairly even rate of decline, and then we come to a rounded N. The cap twists off with two rotations, and underneath we have one of the real special things about this pen, which is this stainless steel number 8 nib. I think it looks really nice. I like the grooves that are on the side there. You can see this is ink. There is a little bit of ink on here. And here is the plastic feed. Having a budget pen like this, and I'll get into price in just a bit, but with a number 8 nib that performs really well is just a real added bonus. The section begins with a ring, and then it is straight. I do like the thickness. I do prefer thicker sections, and this one is a bit on the thicker side. It transitions into some metal threads, which I don't find to be sharp, and then we'll say a medium-sized step up. It's almost a stair step up to the remainder of the barrel. I do find this section to be long enough that these threads aren't in the way. And as I mentioned, I just really like the size of this pen. It's a decent weight. It's not overly heavy. And I really enjoy the thickness of the section, which pretty much is in my golden zone of what I particularly care for. The cap does post, but it doesn't, boy, I have to get it in the frame here. It doesn't post especially deep. Now, I do find that the cap isn't overly heavy and it doesn't backweight the pen or throw off the balance, but I think it looks a little bit unwieldy and lengthy. And so I prefer to use this pen unposted. This is a cartridge converter pen. It does accept standard international cartridges, and a converter is provided. With the metal included in here, I would not recommend eyedropping this pen. You can see it does contain an O-ring here, so that helps when you are closing this down. You could really feel it over that last quarter turn, and it just makes for a more pleasant basically putting the pen back together again experience, and it just feels like it's not going to come apart, and it's rather secure. In regard to price, this pen is available for, believe it or not, $38.99. Asvine has come out with some amazing pens for the price. And as I mentioned, a fantastic bang for the buck. For what this pen provides, and we'll take a look at the writing sample in a little bit, this is honestly one of the best pens you could buy for under $40. And the fact that this is under $40 and you get a pen that is unique with unique material, a decent size, the nib is fantastic, it performs well. You really can't go out there and buy a much better pen for under $40 in the marketplace right now. So let's take a look at some measurements, and then we'll come back with some size comparisons and then a writing sample with this number 8 nib. So, in regard to some size comparisons, wanted to show some other Asvine models. This is the V126, and then this one here is the P180, and then finally here is the P36. And in regard to some non-Asvine pens, this is what it looks like with a Lamy All-Star and a Pilot Metropolitan. And then this is what it looks like with a TWSBI VAC 700 Iris. In regard to uncapped comparisons, this is what it looks like with the VAC 700 and the Lamy All-Star. And then this is what it looks like with the V126. So here we are with the writing sample for the Asvine. And this is the C2000. We'll call it the stabilized wood. And this is a medium number 8 stainless steel nib. And the ink I'm using is from Pannonia. And it was the exclusive from Mike Madison, which is the Cheerio Water Bus. Oh, and I misspelled Cheerio. It's Cheerio. This is what the ink looks like. It's a nice kind of bronze oxidized greenish brown or greenish blue, as opposed to like the Leonardo Smeraldo, which is a little bit more on the bluer green side. And then this is what it looks like with Monteverde green. It's fairly close to the Monteverde green. This is what the Pannonia bottles look like. Normally they don't have that much ink on the outside of it. That was my own doing. But I'm not sure if Mike still has these available, but if he does, then it's well worth picking up. Mike does a good job of picking good ink colors to collaborate with. So any of his ink colors he's produced previously with other manufacturers have been well worthwhile. And here we go with the rest of the writing sample. This number 8 nib is very pleasant to use. I won't say that it's especially, it's decently smooth, but it, in essence, feels just like a normal number 6 nib. I do like using a larger nib, but it isn't necessarily overly springy, but it does provide a little bit of flex to it. I would say the ink flow is rather generous for a medium nib. And then in regard to reverse writing, it's a little scratchy, but it gets the job done. And then in regard to some fast writing, the feed keeps up very well. So I'll put a link in the notes below. These pens are available on Amazon, and as I mentioned previously, they were $38.99. That is an amazing price for this pen. I think for something that looks cool, it performs nicely, has a neat number 8 nib. Whether you enjoy pens in this price range or you're just looking for a great starter pen, you really can't beat this pen for that under $40 price range. If I should ever do another, best pens under $50, this pen will certainly be very, very high on the list. Okay, until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.